And here we go. Guys, I'm sorry we missed you the other night. We'll get this right out of the way. We were supposed to be on Monday night, but producer Pete was feeling a little bit under the weather. We're really glad that Pete's feeling better. He had a kidney stone. He was in a lot of pain, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, we've been waiting for this guy for a long time. Do I got to say his name? I don't even think I got to say his name. All I got to say is living legend.
A salute.
He already missed the first cue. What am I going to do with this guy? He missed the first cue already.
One more time. Ready? Try it again. Hold on. Let's try it again. Pete, hold on. Stand by.
No.
Let's try it again.
Hold on.
Right,
We did not introduce.
Word.
What's the word of the day? Let me ask you that.
The word of the day is the living legend.
Oh.
There it is.
There it is. Maron.
Without any further ado, we call him the living legend for a good reason, because he is the living legend. Renowned author, firefighter and rescue one for how many years? 20, what? Who? Oh,
20.
20. That's enough. 20 years. The living legend, Paul Hashagen. There we go. Also known as... What's some of his other names, Rookie? We found out? Hollywood
Hashagen.
Hollywood Hashagen. We did a little research on you, Paul.
Good.
Because we've always called him the living legend. I didn't even know there was. I mean, there's no other reason to call him anything else. What are you going to call him?
He said living legend.
Somebody said living legend.
Yeah, I didn't say that one.
He's got more stories and liver pills than Walt Disney. He's got great stories. When you think that your career is something, it's like this as soon as you start talking to the guy. So, Paul, tell us a little about where you started. We all know that you're a rescue one. We all know that you're a acclaimed author and historian of the FDNY. Have I kissed your ass enough?
That's good. Yeah.
More?
You could stop.
So tell us where you start in ladder. I thought I knew. 21?
No, I started driving fire trucks when I was 3 years old in Jamaica, Queens, on the sidewalk in front of my grandfather's house. I had one of those
Who was a fireman?
Who was a firefighter? Yeah, and I had one of those little pedal fire trucks. And
Right.
with the
Where
little
in Jamaica, Queens did you grow up?
84th Road, I was there until I was about 5.
Oh, okay. So you did a little time in the ghetto.
Yep. And could see 315 and 125 go by down on the corner. You hear the do you guys know what a Buckeye exhaust whistle is?
No, look at this. Right off the bat, he's giving us some stuff.
The hook and ladder trucks. The hook and ladder trucks used to have a whistle hooked up to the exhaust manifold. And when they were responding, they would let this baby go. And it was this loud screeching sound. And before air horns got popular and everything, and you could hear them for miles.
Really? What was it called? The Buckeye what?
A Buckeye hooter.
A Buckeye hooter?
Yeah.
Wow. The Buckeye hooter.
It did cause some types of problems, I think, in the long run with the exhaust system, but they were popular. You look at the old not WNYFs, old fire engineering, you can find advertisements for them.
And so would the guys put them on themselves, or would the shops put them on?
No, I think they came like that. Yeah.
Really?
For a while.
So what years are we talking about? The early 60s, late 50s, early 60s?
I think they got popular in the 40s into the 50s. And you could hear the old Doppler shift. You hear a thing come and all of a sudden it changes pitch when it goes by. And my grandfather used to tell me that if you were the engine, you were waiting for the truck to come, you could hear them coming. So that was a good thing.
That was a good thing. Yeah.
Sure.
Where was your grandfather, Paul?
He started in Engine 76 in the Upper West Side of Manhattan back in 1918.
1918.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Up until you said 1940 something, right? 44. What'd you say?
Yeah, he retired in 44. He was in the engine up there, and his father had owned a butcher shop. It was a family business, and my grandfather used to drive the wagon to deliver meat or whatever wherever they were selling it. And when he got into the fire department, I guess one day the hose wagon chauffeur wasn't available, and they just said, "Who knows how to drive horses?"
Oh, shit.
There he goes.
The rest
pretty
is history.
sick. Yeah, the rest is history. Holy mackerel.
So there he goes.
Did he stay in 76 engine or did
He stayed in 76 engine until 315 opened. And 315, right. Well, it wasn't then.
No.
There was no college there. I think it was a potato farm or something. But it was near where he bought a house. He used to live in Manhattan, but then he bought a house in Queens in Jamaica on 84th Road. And so he moved to be closer to his home. His wife had passed away. So there you go. Wow, that's quick.
Wow, Pete.
Very good.
Look at that.
Yeah.
They would put that on the exhaust.
Yeah, you see that the round can part with the whistle on top.
Yeah.
You know, like on a train when you pull the thing and then.
Yeah, right. Like steam. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man.
A heavy duty exhaust
Look
whistle.
at that. Pete's earning his money today. Look at you go.
Wow.
Peter.
Oh, wait.
Oh, who's that?
Oh no.
Is that Paul coming out of the window?
Oh
Wait a
no.
minute. Wait, I spy something.
Hold on a minute there. 1 second.
Hold
fella.
on.
Somebody might want to know. Are those white socks on you,
Wait,
brother?
who would want
Are
to know?
Wait, white tube socks?
Hold on. Who
Tube
would
socks.
want to know that?
Yeah.
Chief Steve.
I'm Chief Steve, I'm here to check your socks. If your OT is high, I'll send you to the rock. Mustache trimmed and tight to your face. Know who you're talking to, don't step out of place, 'cause I'm Chief Steve!
Oh my
Now-
God.
I spy with
tube
my
socks.
little eye. Look at that. Look at those tube socks.
What year is that, brother? 19 what?
That's 83 or 84.
83 or
You know
84.
what's nice with those when you had your regular.
God.
I remember the living legend, Tidy Whiteys, when we went away. When we went away together, we did a show. There he was in the Tidy Whiteys.
Well, they came in a package deal with those tube socks, so I still have them.
He irons them too. His wife irons his underwear.
So for you guys who don't know, when we first started, when me and Kevin had first come up with the idea, we had throw a couple ideas back and forth, and Kevin had a picture in his basement for years and years and years. It was a engineman, and it was a cartoon character, and it had some funny little things next to it. You know, guy's short, he needs a shave, brass nozzle, circa 1920 or something like that. And we were like, who drew this thing? Like, we should try and make up shirts with this. And Kevin realized it was Paul had originally drew all these
hash on it, so it kind of
said hash. Yeah, gave it away. And so then we got in touch with Henry. We got in touch with this old man Hank, and he got the number to call Paul, and we got in touch with Paul, and we kind of had a little thing going where he would draw some other stuff for us. He drew the chief. He drew the hazmat guy. He drew the rescue man, which was one of the funniest ones, I thought. And
soon to come out, Tillerman. Do it from the
Tillerman. Yeah.
Do it better from the rear.
Do it better from the rear coming out. As soon as the world opens up again, we'll be getting that shirt going.
Yeah, going. So then we actually went to a lot of the shows, and when we first started, with our first batch of shirts, and Paul had a few books out, so we told him to come out to the shows with us, and he would sign books and he would meet everybody, and he was kind of like the draw initially, bringing everybody.
Sign books. Let's get the whole story. We would have a booth, and Paul would sit in there and sign books, and he'd have a line like 5 miles long. You thought he was like,
that's what I mean.
You thought he was like Mick Jagger or something. People would be like, Paul, I love you. What, Paul? So that's where we got the living legend from, because people would be drooling on themselves.
Did you hear the
Guys
bomb?
would be drooling on themselves, like, oh, Paul, I'm so glad to meet you, Paul. I'm big fan of you, Paul.
So he actually stayed in the hotel with us the one time we went, and we were like laughing our ass off. We went out to the bar that night, and then of course he told us the stories. What we started bullshitting with him for the first time. Really, he started telling us a story, and Kevin and I both feel like we had a pretty good career. We had charter members of a special operations. 290, 103, the whole thing. And then Paul starts telling about his stuff, and you're like, Yeah, I'm gonna go crawl under a rock.
Yeah.
So, but it was a lot of fun.
Lucky, that's all.
Yeah, lucky.
Yeah.
You had a lucky career. So
Yeah.
after you driving around the little fire engine in Jamaica, you moved out to Freeport, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And you became a Freeport volley along with a lot of other guys from the FDNY.
Yeah.
Henry Mollet. Who were some of the other guys out there?
Hank,
Who were
Bruce Newberry.
Oh, Bruce Newberry, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some big heavy hitters on the FDNY and the rescue companies.
Yeah. At one point, it was pretty cool. I started in Hose 5, and about a year and a half later, I came down to the truck company. And Bruce and Hank kind of broke me in, especially Bruce in the beginning. And I went into the city, took the test, got into the city, and Bruce and Hank were shortly after me on the same list.
Mm-hmm.
So we all ended up getting on the job in a short amount of time. And well, I went to 74 engine, and then Bruce went to Proby school, and then he went to 74 engine. And then I transferred over to 25 truck, and Bruce came to 25 truck. And eventually both of us were in Rescue 1. And then finally, Mollet smartened up, and
he left a bad, busy-ass Brooklyn.
Truck.
Yeah, he used to complain. I went to 6 fires last night, and 3 guys got burned, and you guys had a rubbish fire, and you're on the news. And I said, well, it affected 1 million people. You know, that rubbish fire was in Manhattan. You know,
Yeah.
people care about it. But it was great, because when I got to 1, there were guys from all over the city that worked in 1, and the old time is, to me, it really was like going to the 27 Yankees. All of a sudden, they look at the bat boy and say, "Hey, kid, you're in," you know, and it's like, wow.
So you were the bat boy.
Yeah.
Who was some of the senior guys when you got there, Paul?
I had Bill Bestman, Mr. Riley. I think those two right off the bat were the heavy hitters to me. Bill Bestman's about 6'4", 6'5", and just you watch the man at a fire, and we'd go up to the command post, and he'd just be looking at it. And if he said anything, everybody was like, what?
Really? Yeah.
I don't know, because he was a little taller and had a better view. But
He had a presence.
yeah, I think that it was really that he was very smart and knew stuff. And the same thing with Bill Riley. They both they were amazing. Not to diminish the other guys. I mean, George Crucier and Spanky McAllister, John McAllister. He was one of the most dynamic guys. John Driscoll. I had like 6 or 8 of these superior guys, and none of them walked around like they were anything special. They showed up and went to work. You know, there was no big deal. Nobody was carrying their luggage or sweeping the floor for them. They were
egos.
They were doing the work. Yeah, they were just good firefighters.
Who was the captain?
Just want to say one quick thing in the chat here, boys. Matt Shirley wrote. He says, I wrote Paul in 1987. I was 9 years old and sent it to Rescue. He wrote me back and sent a cartoon book and a Rescue 1 patch. Still have all 3. Living legend.
Wow.
That's pretty freaking cool.
That's called humble, baby.
Thanks,
That
Matt.
is cool, bro.
Matt, you're getting me drunk.
I can't feel my
Have
face.
you seen the show before, Paul?
Yes.
Can't feel my face.
That's one of the reasons I agreed.
By the way, they love your medals, Paul.
Yeah, all the medals in the back. We see them, Paul. You don't have to show everybody.
Paul, don't-
That's a poster. They're not my medals.
Dude, if you'd see Paul at a function when he was in his uniform, he'd be leaning like this because he had all the medals. Sorry, bro. I think he actually had a counterbalance. He would pull the weight, and so he would stand up straight.
Yeah, I had a couple unit citations, a couple of this, a couple of grabs, whatever, and then Paul would walk by, and it would be like, like this thing, like it was going down to his belly button. You know what I mean? It was just
Well, most were good attendants.
yeah.
He's pretty swift.
Really, it was just it was the stuff they sent you to.
Uh-huh.
John McAllister used to say, "Oh, it's real easy to win a medal. First, you have to be working. Then there has to be a fire. You have to go to it. You have to be in the right position, make a really good move. It has to be successful."
Right.
And then all the bullshit starts. Are they going to write it up and blah blah blah? And he had a list. It was like, but
Wow.
I never saw anybody do anything for a medal. But I mean, it was a real thing. It got political and it got stupid. But at a fire, guys just do what they instinctively know how to do. And then all the nonsense comes in later. I mean, to say that I didn't enjoy getting medals and all the rest of it, I'd be lying. It's an amazing thing, but you don't do it for that. You do it because there's nothing else to do except that. And be so happy that you are in a position every day. We were so lucky, you guys included, everybody out there that jumps on a fire truck or anywhere in the country or around the world. You can go make a difference in somebody's life every single day. Who can do that? Not very, very few. Right now, the doctors and the nurses are doing what we routinely do. And God bless them, they're getting the accolades that they deserve. Agreed. Because it's the war years for them right now. You know what the fire service went through a while back. But it's nobody does it for any. You do it for a paycheck, but it's secondary. I used to tell people they pay me to take care of the truck and to clean the building because you can't pay me enough money to risk my life. I do that for free. Right. And I do that for the satisfaction of knowing that I'm doing a good job. And because of the brothers that I'm with, that I know that they're doing the same thing I'm doing. And if I get jammed up, they're going to come and get me, just like I'm going to come and get them.
Everybody's on the same page. You know what I want to ask you, Paul? I was looking through some stuff and I remembered I saw a picture. How many presidents? The Rescue One used to go to the heliport, right? Whenever the president came to the city. Yeah. And how many presidents did you end up meeting over the years?
Well, they're seeing them and meeting them. I saw them all from Ronald Reagan to the second Bush and the Pope. And the Pope is now a saint.
That's right.
So not many people get to watch the helicopter land with a saint in it. So there you go. But that was pretty neat. And through connections in the firehouse, I got to be on the honor guard at St. Patrick's Cathedral when the Pope went there to do a service. And I guess I was about 10 feet away from him. It was all cops and firefighters lining the steps. And it was pretty cool. The Pope goes bopping by, gives you a quick, little wave.
Hail Mary.
Yeah, right. I thought he was calling an audible. I didn't know what he was doing.
Yellow 30, yellow 30.
Paul, I gotta say that you get the best comments, and these are the kinds of comments that I get. Pete has his vasectomy receipt on his wall.
They love you, Pete. If they didn't love you, they wouldn't break your balls. If they didn't love you.
I know that. I love this audience, man. That's what I was trying to tell you, Paul. Before you get on this show, you got to know what's coming in shit hot.
That's good.
Well,
that's good.
And all those guys that you met, who left the biggest impression on you? All the dignitaries, the higher ups.
Wow, that's hard to say. I think.
Well, he met movie stars. I mean, he met every other picture I see on his thing. He has, Dan Aykroyd. He had all movie. Everybody was always there.
and most of them are really, really nice. Dan Aykroyd was a really, really good guy. I think of all the people that I worked with that weren't firefighters, I think Roger Daltrey from The Who was
really
the coolest guy. Yeah, without a doubt.
And where did you meet him?
Again, just they call me up. I get a phone call. And I'm not sure who sent them to me, but Roger Daltrey had a show called Extreme History on the History Channel, and he would recreate like Lewis and Clark stuff and hunting buffaloes with the Plains Indians and all these different things. And they wanted to recreate firefighting. They had an old hand pumper, they had a steam engine. And they wanted me in there. I taught Roger Daltrey how to climb a scaling ladder. And then we went and attacked a fire. I worked 2 different days, once in New Jersey at a fire academy there, and then at the Nassau County Fire Academy. And they filmed this whole thing. They put it together. It was brilliant. And he was such a nice guy. We sat at lunch, and it was great. It was just he and I at lunch. People came over. He signed autographs.
Just the two of you were sitting there having lunch?
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool, man.
It's pretty cool to consider. Now, to show you my age, in 1969, Joanne and I went to Woodstock.
I was 1.
It was, yeah.
Thanks.
That was you? I saw a baby there.
You want to? I got the good shit.
My in-laws were at Woodstock, so I've heard all the stories. Yeah.
Well, I not that I never tried drugs, never inhaled, but we didn't see any.
Allegedly.
Everybody, where I was, everybody had their clothes on.
I have a question.
And if
How
you had
was
a
the
bottle
brown
of water,
acid?
no, don't take it. They said don't take it.
Don't take it.
Don't
Roger
take the
that.
brown ass.
But my point was, here I am as a young man in 1969, and I see the Who on stage, and now I get to work with Roger Daltrey, and he turns out to be this wonderful man. And so we do the filming. It comes out on television, and a couple of months later, it's New Year's Eve. So we're having a couple of family members over, whatever. I run over to the liquor store to get a couple of bottles of wine, and we're going to have a party. And I'm sitting about to get into the liquor store, and my cell phone rings, and I don't recognize the number. So I answer the phone. I said, hello. And he goes, is this Paul? I said, yeah. This is Roger. I said, Roger who? He goes, exactly.
Exactly.
I said, Roger. He goes, oh, I wanted to wish you a happy new year. And
wow, that's
I
cool,
almost
bro.
fell over. I'm in a parking lot at a liquor store, and Roger's calling me up. So he says, oh, next time I come to New York, I'll get you tickets. So 3 different shows afterwards, you know, over the years, he's called up, and I've gone to see them, got backstage, got to meet Pete, you know, and Peter Townsend says to me, I'm waiting in the hallway to go see Roger the last time in the Coliseum. Pete comes out and he looks at me and goes, you Paul, that fireman, Roger's friend? I almost fell over. Pete, you know who I am?
Are you kidding? I'm Hollywood Hashagen. Are you kidding?
I got a quick question from the chat. There's a couple of really good ones. We'll just lace in as we go along the way. Do you want a historical question, Paul, or or something?
Sure.
Let's see. That one's a little further back. Here, let me go with this one for now. Oh, here we go. Paul, thoughts? Here it is from Justin Davidson, ball buster extraordinaire. Question for Paul: thoughts on the controversy between Newark, New Jersey Rescue 1 being formed in 1913 and FDNY Rescue 1 being formed in 1915.
I've heard about that. I've heard, and I have friends over the years that were in Newark Rescue 1. To me, it's not a controversy. I haven't seen any documented proof. They tell me that, oh, we were there first, and okay. When you show me a picture and show me the roster and show me the tools that you had, because not to be controversial, because I really try never to be controversial, especially in history. I think there's enough good things there that we don't have to argue about, you know, somebody's belief about something else. But to me, the difference in that era were the tools. One of the things that's so ingrained in firefighters about losing your tool is because in the old days, back in that era especially, you had one tool, maybe 2. There was nothing else on the rig. When you brought your stuff in, there was maybe 3 or 4 other things on the rig, not like now. All these fire trucks are toolboxes. Everybody's got everything from thermal imaging cameras to you name it.
5 of them.
Yeah. These guys had an axe, and they had some kind of, they didn't even have Halligans or anything. They had these claw tools and stuff. It was all repurposed equipment. And if you lost it, there was hell to pay because they couldn't get it. So they had squad companies. They might have called it a rescue. What tools were on that rig? Were they just extra guys going to a fire? They probably worked their butts off and did a really good job. But if you didn't have Draeger smoke helmets and stuff like that to do the things that the average firefighter couldn't do, Rescue 1 was so long in the making, and they didn't do it, typical New York City or big city operation, for the money. The original idea started in 1912, and it took till 1915 till it happened.
Wow.
After they had the Equitable building fire and they had to saw through the bars by hand using hacksaws, they said, wow, we have to get torches. We have to get all the rest of this equipment. And until a fire happened in January of 1915, where imagine this, 700 people went to the hospital in 1915. It was unheard of.
Wow.
There were no emergency rooms. All these people unconscious, a couple of people got killed. 2 weeks later, there was a rescue company.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was great. And I just want to throw this one more in because it's a great question. It's a recurring question from Eric Short here. Basically, he's asking if he had if Paul had one piece of advice to give himself back when he started, what would it be?
The guy did everything. What do you mean?
Two things.
Knowing what you know now, Paul.
Take better notes. So when I look back, I can remember clearly when all these different things happened.
That's true. I'm forgetting a lot of shit too.
And one thing I definitely would do different, I was at a fire in Freeport, and I turned to my friend Don Rowan and said over my shoulder, "Be careful of this floor." And he said, "Okay." And I took one step and went through the floor and hit a beam and ended up in the hospital.
Oh my God.
So I would have done that differently.
Let's back up 3 steps.
Because the house was empty. So what the hell?
You guys were doing some work in Freeport back then, right?
Oh, yeah. I started in 74 engine and 25 truck. They were like midline for runs and workers in New York City. Mm-hmm. There were companies that were doing a hell of a lot more, and there were companies that were doing a hell of a lot less. And I started in the end of 78, which was actually, I think, the busiest year. Like we always said, the war years and all that, but 78 was still hopping. I got a little piece of it. Mm-hmm. 79, it was still around. There were guys doing a lot of work, but I wasn't. I was moderately busy. But Freeport was hopping. I would go to more fires in Freeport than I did in New York City at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
So what year did you get to Rescue 1, Paul?
I went there in 1983.
How did you get there?
The tail end of the like, would you say the war years? 76?
Yeah, you know what? Until I started working on the Rescue 1 book, I always felt that I missed it. And then when I had all the stats in front of me, I didn't miss a thing.
You were right there, man.
We were right in the thick of it because it lasted, I think all across the city, it lasted a lot longer than we were actually aware of. The vacant buildings went away after a while, but there was still a tremendous amount of work in occupied buildings. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Paul, how did you end up what made you decide to go to Rescue 1? I know you touched on it a little bit before, but what made you decide this is what you were going to go?
I think when I was a kid, the earliest recollection I ever heard of hearing about a rescue company is my grandfather got me a little fleet of fire trucks when I was a real little kid, and I lived in his house in Jamaica while my parents were saving money to buy the house in Freeport. And I had a hook and ladder, I had a pumper, and then I went to get my tonsils taken out. And when I came back from that, there was a little rescue truck. And in between scoops of ice cream, because that's the best thing about getting your tonsils out, is the ice cream. I'm asking my grandfather, what does this rescue truck, what does he do? This guy gets water and he puts a fire out, and this guy's got ladders. What does this guy do? And he says, well, they rescue firemen. And I just paused, and right then, like a little asterisk got put next to that, and I never forgot that. Like my grandfather didn't talk an awful lot about the fire department. I always prompted him, but he told me like nice kid stories about funny things about a Dalmatian, and one of the firefighters had triplets at home, and they would lasso the dog, and all these crazy things that are appropriate for children. You're not going to be talking about death and destruction, but that was one of the things that stuck with me. And then after I got reinvigorated and joined the fire service, I kept reading about what they were doing. And then when I got into 74 engine, I had just come off probation, and Bruce was still on probation, and we got a run to a subway job, and they had a pretty good fire going down in the subway on between Broadway and Central Park West. And those emergency exits that they have, we religiously checked them and used the wrench on it, went down there. We checked, they were serious about doing that, and BI and hydrants and everything. They were really doing that all the time. And all of a sudden, heavy smoke's coming out. Me and Bruce are figuring, here we go. And Rescue 1 pulls up, and the chief looks at me. He looks
Rescue,
at Bruce.
get in there.
I said, yeah. Because now here I am. I'm just got a brand new 74 front piece because my Proby shield's gone. Bruce has got a brand new Proby shield on. It's a 4-man engine. And we're two of the 3 people that are going to go down this thing, and they're brand new guys. And the chief's looking at them. Rescue 1 pulls off, and everybody's like 20 years or better. And he just says, "Okay, son, stand here." And Rescue 1 went down, and we went, "Oh, well, that's not good," So we're standing there. A little while later, they start coming out, and they're holding babies and all this. Like, what the fuck, So we're standing there. We're doing the best we can. And they said,
holding the gate open for them.
Yeah. Can I dust off your coat? So they send us, 74, go over to Broadway and open up this emergency exit. So we go racing over there, and there's nobody around. So, good. We're opening the subway exit. We open it up. Another chief pulls up. He looks at us, has the same thought in his mind. Rescue 4 pulls up. And he says, "Son, just stand there. We're going to send these guys down." So I go, "Wait a minute. I drove all the way into Manhattan to get these guys from Queens to go in front of me? I don't,
Yeah.
So that kind of told me what company I wanted to be in right then.
It's funny you say that because I had a similar situation with Hatton, actually, when he was in Rescue 4. And I was in 117 at the time. And we went for, I forget what it was. I think it was for a person under the train, maybe. And they showed up, and you could just see the presence. You could just see the aura about those guys and how people looked up to them. And back then, those guys, for what it's worth, nowadays we don't want that. But back then, those guys looked salty. You know what I mean? They looked like they were in country forever. They were dirty. But they looked prepared and ready to go. And, they had the masks on, for God's sakes, Well,
I think that's one of the differences too. Is I have friends that are a lot of really good firefighters, and I watch them operate. Some of them I've been in the volunteers with, and they work in ghetto companies, whatever, and they're really good firefighters. And then I just watch the attention to detail, and the straps are hanging open, and it's to me, how long does it take to close the strap on a Scott so that the heavy tank fits better on your body? There's no other reason. I mean, that's how it's designed. Take the weight off of you, and put it in the best possible position. Mm-hmm. And I don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. Really? Came away, and I'm totally dressed. I never got it. And then the possibility of getting tangled up or what. I didn't do it for any other reason than for my safety. Not for speed. The speed. If you're running that fast to the building, you're not doing a size up, so you're not doing anybody any good. So
right,
whatever.
Dude, I got a story. I got a Hatton story, bro. So
good.
We were just. It was not that long after we became a squad, and I got a detail over to Rescue 1, and I walk in there, and he's filling out the riding list. And everybody from Rescue 1 there, the guy's getting off, and the guy's working that day, and he's filling out the riding list. And he looks up at me, he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Kevin Kubel, I'm working here at Rescue 1 from Squad 288. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Does your mother know you're here today?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so. I'm almost sure she does."
That's some high-level ball busting right there.
Yeah, man.
You guys are the best. I have to admit, firefighters are the best ball busters I've ever seen. Never seen
my God, it's relentless.
Yeah, it's true.
Of course, I looked a lot younger back then. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
A little more.
Well, he looked young too. I remember him when he was in Rescue 4. Him showing up to a box. He was very. He looked very young.
I remember him in. I think he was in Long Beach before in the volleys before he got in there, and Jack Theobald. Later, we talked about it. I met him down there, and we kind of knew each other to say hello even before our city career started. But I got to know Terry way better. Certainly, he was a lieutenant. I knew him in Rescue 2, and then I got to see him a lot more when he was a lieutenant in Ladder 4, which has always been a great company. I loved working with Ladder 4. What a good house. When when I first got to Rescue 1, there was no SOC yet, so we were still in the 9th Battalion, and I used to get details over there, and I just loved it. It was a great house, really good bosses, really good firefighters, and a lot of salty guys, older guys that they knew every address, every building.
Right.
Imagine that. What a complicated part of the city to work in, and they knew everything. There was this guy, Johnny Joe was his name, one of the senior whips, a chauffeur, and he told me a story that they used to have the theater detail. All the Broadway shows had to have a firefighter backstage in the old days, and they would go chop the rope that let down the asbestos curtain. Now imagine the difference nowadays. In those days, asbestos came down, and everybody thought, "Oh, thank God, we're safe from the fire."
Oh my God! No, I need to be deconned.
Yeah, you drop an asbestos curtain now, you'd have a riot. My God!
I need a shower.
He's standing in the wings, and all of a sudden, boom! He gets smashed in behind, and he has, "Hey, fireman, get the fuck out of the way!" And boom! It's Ethel Merman.
Oh my God, that's classic.
She missed her cue. She's got to get on stage. What? She's out there singing. So she says, she comes off at the end of it. She goes, I'm sorry. Come on, you and me are going drinking after the show.
I'm sure that was fun.
That's the kind of guys I got to work with over there. It was amazing.
What truck company was the stepping stone to Rescue 1? Wasn't there a truck company that you went to? That?
Yeah, I worked in 25 truck. Another really a cool.
Oh, is that what it was? 25 truck?
25, yeah.
Did you do that knowing you wanted to go to Rescue 1? You transferred it?
It was in the back of my head. What I wanted to do was get to the truck.
Right.
You know, it's like anything else. You know, it's you want to take that step. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in my mind, I remember going to Proby school. Dennis Gordon, Trip Tree, and I forget the other guy's name in the carpool. And we were talking, we're getting ready to graduate. And, oh, what do you want to do in the job? And, you know, Dennis Gordon saying, oh, I want to go here. I want to go there. And Trip Tree says, my father was a chief. I want to be a chief. I said, I want to get to Rescue 1. So it was kind of in the back of my mind. But having that in your head doesn't make it so, because there's a lot of other people want to do the same thing. Yeah. And then you could go there and knock on the door, and when the giggling stops, then you find out if they're going to let you in, you know. Yeah. But that's it was always there.
You went to Proby school with Trip Tree. I went to Proby school with his son, and I think they both became chiefs.
Yeah.
Dennis had a pretty good.
He had a good career too, man. Gordon. Yeah, man.
I like it. He was a good guy, man. I'm going to try and get him on here. Actually,
he was a 120 truck guy, right?
He was nice to see him there. Then he went to 18, right?
Yeah, I used to see him a lot. There was a bunch of really good guys. I got to be pretty friendly with Carl Havens, who was in my class, and I only found out later. Like he would go through Proby school, and then we're going to have that little Proby party. So we go to a bar, and that's the party will be here. Sign up and go there. So I'm a Long Island kid. I don't know the city. I knew 84th Road to drive my little pedal fire truck, and that's what I knew about. I knew where the baseball park was, and Shea Stadium. That was it. And so we end up going to the party, and Carl Havens goes, "Oh, my brothers are going to play in the band." So I'm looking at these guys coming out, guy after guy after guy, and they all look like him, and they're all playing music. They got conga drums and guitars and all. Holy mackerels! This is amazing. Well, I didn't know his older brother was Richie Havens. The famous singer and everything. I said, wow, Carl, I like you even more now. This is good. and he ended up being a fire marshal, and for years afterwards I would see him at different fires. He'd show up, and you know how it is when you get somebody from your Proby class. It's pretty neat. Yeah. And a couple of other my Proby class guys ended up being staff chiefs, so that worked out good too.
That doesn't hurt.
We keep getting the really good questions here. I just want to throw one more in.
Sure.
From Joe A here. Paul, I used to teach our junior firefighters ages 12 to 18. What would you say to a kid in that age range nowadays to pique their interest and help them understand the honor of the fire service?
Well, that's a big part of it, because to me, one of the coolest things about the whole thing of firefighting, and one of the things I like to tell young people is, not only the fact that you get to make a difference every single day, for the most part, I jumped out of bed and race to work. I couldn't wait to get there. And I know most guys that are on the job are like that in any city or any community. They just feel that calling. But the nature of the job itself, I think, not only do you get to make a difference, save people's lives, help them on their worst day, but just the science of it. I like to tell people that a lifeguard can risk his life by swimming through giant waves, but he can't calm the sea. We put out fires. Elemental nature. Nobody else battles elemental nature. We save the planet. We as much damage as we do to one particular building, we also are saving the community from all the smoke and all the destruction and the fire going and taking all different buildings.
Sure, block after block.
I remember
I Australia is a good example of that. And most recently, what firefighters have done for literally saving the earth, as you just said.
I know. I look at the firefighters. I've met so many over the years and have several friends out there. The wildfires they had on Long Island, at the peak of it, I was working, so I missed it. And guys are saying, "Oh, we went out there," and I'm figuring out, what the hell do I know? I would have gone. I just would have been another grunt pulling a hose, which is what you really have to do. But I never did wildland firefighting, and to see what they do year after year out there, it's absolutely amazing. I had a couple of small things as a firefighter or when I was chief in Freeport, very small ones. And even those scared me because I was out of my element. And I remember we were on 38th Street after the building went down, and we were in the quarters with 34 engine and 21 truck. And we had some visitors. I believe the gentleman was from Florida. And he says, "How do you all fight brush fires?" And I'm using a real bad Southern accent, but how do you all fight brush fires around here? And I'm looking around at all these buildings and all the concrete. And I said, "Brother, I don't fight too many brush fires, but what's your point?" He says, "Well, we fight them from the inside out." And I said, "Really? What's the point of that?" Because, well, you go into it and then you put it out around you. I said, "Well, why would you do that?"
That's a safe area.
So the gators don't get you.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Made perfect sense to me right after that. Yeah.
Wow. That's a perspective shift. Check this photo out.
Yeah. Where was that, Paul?
Who's that guy?
Describe the scene for us.
Nice stash.
Yeah, that was my camera. That was on the west side. We were on the roof. Me, Bill Mudry, I think, and one other guy from Rescue, I don't remember, and two guys from Fort Truck, and we had just opened all of the roof up, and we were just going to leave the roof. I'm on the adjoining roof now, and I said, wait, and I took 3 pictures of the other guys, and those pictures were spectacular. There were flames pouring out, and they were all standing there. They're just
look
posing.
like they were in a steam bath.
Yeah, they're just posing. So I got these great shots, and by the time I gave them the camera to take a picture of me, they started moving in with the line. They knocked all the fire down. But yeah, it was fun. I tried to carry a camera with me when I first started.
Yeah. That's good stuff. You got to tell the story, even for myself. I don't think I've ever heard you. I know you kind of brushed over it with the helicopter, the news helicopter. I heard a little bit about it on another podcast, which is interesting. But I wanted you to tell the guys, go through that story, because that, making a grab, going left, going right, that could be anybody, any day. But what you did with the helicopter, from what I understand, it was that's a pretty incredible thing, man. Yeah,
it was pretty unique. Without a doubt. We had started scuba diving. As soon as I got into Rescue 1, they had started with a scuba program. Just that's what they were doing. There was a couple of really bad pier fires, and the creosote smoke was not literally killing people, but hurting a lot of people across the city, downtown, screwing up traffic. And they were saying to the chiefs, maybe if we went into the water, we could put the fires out. They do it in California. Why can't we do it? And all the rest. And they got one deputy chief after a real bad fire to agree that they would try and get into it. So if they're going to throw you in the water, you better learn how to rescue each other, and you better learn how to go underwater if you have to, blah, blah, blah. So it turns into scuba diving. Now, when I was a kid, my father, who was in the Navy in World War II, not as a scuba diver, but was in the Navy as a sailor, when he got out, he was always a waterman, a good swimmer and fisherman and all that stuff. He picked up scuba diving when it was relatively new. And he used to go scuba diving all the time. And I used to go in the boat with him, but I never went in the water because of my sinuses. So I get in the fire department. I don't think anything of it. Next thing, I'm in Rescue 1, and now I'm going for scuba lessons. And he's laughing at me. You're the kid that wouldn't get out of the boat, and you're going to go scuba diving?
Yeah, he's talking about an Aruba. Now you're going to be going into like this murky.
That's the difference. He would have. We see you eating there, Coobs. Good work, Pete. So yeah, my father showed me pictures of sea fans going back and forth on the bottom of Weeki Wachee Lagoon or something in Florida, and I'm jumping into chocolate pudding up here in New York.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That is a scary.
Anyway, become a diver, and in '85 there was a helicopter went down on the East River. As luck would have it, I was the first guy geared up, went in, pulled a man out of the helicopter there. Dave Van Vorst in Rescue 2. A couple other guys had made really dramatic. Yelpy. A couple of guys made really good underwater grabs also. And all of a sudden, the scuba program was taken off. It's like, wow, this is working. And I got to give a shout out to I can't remember his name. It's a long Polish name, and I don't want to do it injustice. But there was a firefighter in Chicago. And I think it was around 82, 83 that made a grab in the wintertime in a pond in a park. A kid was sleigh riding with his father. There was a news crew shooting B-roll for the weather. They're out there and they're shooting. Here's sleigh riding. Well, the guy's going to tell you if it's going to snow or not, for the news. And the father and the kid go into the drink. And they both go underwater. And the father pops up, the kid's not there. And the news crew, in those days, there was the recording device, a long wire in between, and the camera, not like today's stuff. So they made the smart decision of shutting the film off, and they saved the man with the wire. And they call the fire department, and a guy with dive gear comes and goes in the water. And between the delay of the alarm and by the time he finds him, it's got to say 35, 40 minutes. And the kid has a complete recovery.
Cold water, right? The
Cold
water.
That was the start. In my book, that was the start of rescue diving. That it changed everything. It changed everybody's idea of what rescue diving could do. And that had such an impact on me and the firefighters in New York that were divers to realize that if the water was cold enough, and especially if the younger the person, the longer they had. You weren't just doing a recovery. You could actually save somebody. So now it comes, it's in September of 1986, and we're on 38th Street, still waiting for our new firehouse to open up. And Jack Theobald, who I mentioned before, was one of my favorite guys to work with. Jack and I were in the tool room, and we used to listen to Soupy Sales on NBC. And he used to have a TV show when I was a kid. Like people like Frank Sinatra would come and get hit in the face with a pie and all this kind of stuff. But he was a funny guy. He ended up being a disc jockey or a talk show comedian on NBC. And Jane Dornacker would do the traffic updates. So they were all friends because they all worked together. And that particular day, we weren't listening. And we religiously listened to that show. And apparently what happened, they put the wrong part in the helicopter or something like that, but there was a technical problem and the helicopter lost power. The pilot was able, which is amazing what helicopter pilots can do, because once you lose power, you're basically flying a rock. It's not like a plane.
Yeah, it's just straight down, right?
Yeah, a plane you can glide. With a helicopter, he's trying his best. She's yelling, hit the water. She didn't want to hit the land because they were right over the West Side Highway there, 12th Avenue. And he's able to lean the helicopter over, and they go in the water right by the Intrepid. So people call up right away. We're on 38th Street.
You're right there, man.
A couple of blocks away. So as soon as we pull up, there's a crowd of people pointing. A little piece of cyclone fence was down, and there's nothing. It's just nice, calm water. Nothing visible. You don't see, but people are pointing and yelling. And I got my dive gear on. I'm getting ready to go. And Jack Theobald's helping me get my stuff.
Pete, we have that picture, right? Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I do. Stand by. I do.
She was the traffic girl, right, Paul?
Yeah, they were doing live traffic on the air.
Here it comes. And this guy. Oh, nope. I'm sharing the screen.
Oh, hello.
Nice.
Hold on. I got you. Stand by.
All right. So I'll go back to it. But I'm standing on the dock, and they come with a straight ladder, and they're trying to hold it in position. I'm still putting my belt on and everything, getting ready, because you have to take 2 seconds to make sure you're right, because you can't change what you're doing once you do it. So you have to be ready. So John Driscoll, who's in that photograph right there, the side of his face is right next to the man. He's wearing the dark blue sweatshirt. John can swim, but he's not what I would call a swimmer. He never became a diver. He's not like super comfortable in the water. He's the first guy in the water. He's one of the best firefighters I ever saw. Instincts like you couldn't believe. If you were trapped, you want John coming. He's the first guy in the water. He goes out. I'm just getting ready to go down.
There's another picture there, Pete, too.
And I see John out there, and somehow he found the rotor blade. This helicopter's on the bottom. Yeah, you see John just going down the ladder there. That's me
him right there going down the ladder.
Yeah, that's 4 truck, 54 engine, 34 engine, and 21 truck. They all got there simultaneously, and they made this whole thing happen. We came with the special tools, but if those guys look what they're doing.
Yeah, they got the ladder there, the chain, the fence is cut.
Yeah, they're holding that ladder up so John can climb down. I mean, there's no ropes yet even. This is all just happening, second by second. So John goes out, he finds the rotor blade, and he's standing there, and he's going, Paulie, come here. So I swim to him. I follow his leg down.
Standing on the rotor blade?
He somehow found the tip of the rotor blade. He must have hit it with his foot or something, but
that's incredible.
So I go down, I find the pilot, who's the gentleman that you see there in the first picture they're bringing back.
The doors were closed?
Because he looked like he was dead. Did he make it?
Oh, yeah, amazing.
He looked like he was a mortar. He was
blue, yeah. He was about as blue as this shirt.
The door was closed, Paul?
The door was closed.
That is unbelievable. The guy really looks, he's ghost white.
Yeah. Man.
When I got to the door of the helicopter, now it's that murky green yellow color.
Yeah,
it's not like the tropics or whatever.
No,
but I could see a little bit, maybe 2-3 feet in front of me. But I was on the helicopter, so it wasn't a problem. I didn't have to find it. John found it.
Right.
So I got down. I find the door. I open it up, and there's this guy, Mr. Pate. He's the pilot. So I reach in. I cut his seatbelt. I pull him out, and I take him up. Now, the good thing about the Hudson River compared to the East River is the current is nowhere as strong. The East River is not really a river. It's an estuary. The Long Island Sound comes through, goes all the way down.
All
so
the time.
The water is always moving. The East River, the Hudson River is a river. Comes from upstate, comes all the way down, meanders down. It does get moving, but not like the East River. So anyway, I hand off Bill Pate, and they take him, and I go back down, and because I figured there's 2 people in there. We didn't know it was the helicopter from the news show. We just knew a helicopter was down. And I went back in, and I went over to the other seat, and there was nobody there. And it was like, momentarily surprised, like, where's the second person? And then I look up, and there she is. She didn't wear the seatbelt. She had been in a crash previously in New Jersey, and she almost drowned. So she decided from then on that the seatbelt almost killed her, so she's not going to wear a seatbelt, so it's not going to kill her.
So in other words, don't get in a helicopter with her.
Well, yeah. Well, sadly, and that lady was she was in movies. She was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. She played Nurse Ratchet, if you remember back to that movie.
That was Nurse Ratched?
That was Nurse Ratched. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the nasty nurse, right?
Yeah, she was nasty. Yeah. I didn't know it all the time. I found everything out later. But
I'm assuming she passed away there?
Yeah. I take her out. I bring her to the surface. I hand her off, and just like you see there, they bring them all in. I'm just catching my breath for a couple seconds, and I go down. I do a secondary search. There's nothing else down. There's only 2 seats, so you're pretty sure that there's only 2 people. But somebody else could have jumped in, but there was nobody else down there. So I came back up. I went to the surface, and they had somebody threw a tarp on the ground, and they had both of them on the tarp. And 54, 34, 21, and 4 truck were doing CPR. No ambulances there yet. We got there so fast. All the companies were there so quick. It was like a clinic on CPR. And they're just going and going and going. And I got all this adrenaline in me now. And I'm standing there, and I'm feeling bad because they're doing CPR. First off, that's not good when you're doing CPR on people. And it's going on a while. And thinking, well, we tried. And then all of a sudden, the lieutenant from 54 yells, "He's breathing."
Oh my God.
And I almost fell over. So I got so emotional. I'm standing there in a wet, remember those tube socks? I'm in that blue. If you go back to that picture, I guarantee you I'm wearing those tube socks.
Stand by. I gotcha.
That's a weird scuba suit you got on there too, man. I don't even know what the hell that thing
when
is.
you put the fins on, it's not like going to the beach. It's those. But anyway, I'm wearing a wetsuit. I'm soaking wet wearing a wetsuit with tube socks on. I'm pretty sure I have white tube socks on.
Up to the knee.
When they said he's breathing, I just got so emotional. I started walking south. I just had to get away. And I guess I walked about a block or 2. I'm leaving little wet footprints behind me. And I saw a payphone, and it went over. In those days, you didn't have cell phones, but I had a credit card number that I could I could dial my house. So I called my wife up, and I'm sobbing, and I'm wow. Put the news on, put the news on. You can't believe, like, holy man, I'm going to be late. And
I'm going to Medal Day.
Yeah, but that was all later. I mean,
no, of course.
The fact that this man started breathing, so they take him to the hospital. He comes back, and just like with the little boy back to Chicago, he comes back. And when he comes up, that little boy in Chicago, from what I understand, he was like an eraser slate. Remember those things you have when you're a kid and you pull it up and it's blank again?
Yeah.
That little kid was blank again. But they retrained him. What's your name, how to walk, everything. And that kid was fine. This guy comes up. He doesn't know who he is. But he's talking. He's doing everything. His family's there. He's slowly getting it. His family's going crazy. They were climbing on us. They couldn't believe it that we saved them. And I couldn't believe it that we saved them. And they wanted to buy everything for us. New scuba equipment, you name it, whatever. So one day, a car pulls up in front of the firehouse on 38th Street. Guy knocks on the wicket door, the little door in the big door.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, is this the firehouse where they did that helicopter thing? And the guy goes, yeah. He says, I got something. I got something for you. He takes out 2 cases of lobsters, live lobsters.
Oh my God.
Drops them in the firehouse.
That's awesome.
See ya. Who's that from? It's an anonymous gift. The family sent 2 cases of lobsters.
Wow.
Have you ever kept in touch with that guy? Did he ever reach out to you years after or anything?
Well, for a couple of years, his family would send me Christmas cards. I think of all the knickknacks and stuff I have in my office, my prized possessions are handwritten cards from his kids.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I understand, I ran into somebody that knows him, I guess about 2 years ago. And I think he stopped flying helicopters smartly, and he became a lawyer.
Oh, good for him.
So
how old was he then, Paul?
I would guess he was relatively, I guess, my age, in his late 20s, early 30s, about that. Yeah, young man.
Dude, that's a great grab, man. That's incredible.
Oh, it was again just being in the right place and having the good training. It's
had to have you had to be the point man. You had to be working.
Yeah,
that
well,
day,
you got to be serious, and you got to be ready to do it.
I say it all the time. You could be in the right place at the right time, but you still have to execute, man. And that's
you got to do it. You got
to execute. Yeah. And sometimes it takes that's big balls to do that. It's really is. That's incredible stuff.
All right, so give us your best fire at Rescue One.
Best fire. Oh, okay.
The firehouse.
Besides the firehouse going up.
Besides the firehouse burning down.
Well, I think the most memorable fire I had. I was still relatively new there. Bruce wasn't there yet. I guess it was 1984. We responded out to go to a gas leak. And gas leaks in the beginning, when you first have an explosive meter, it's all exciting. Like, oh, maybe we're going to do something great. But gas leaks suck, So
yeah, they really suck.
Yeah, and it was right about that time that I learned that this sucks. But what are you going to do? That's what you do. So a lot of times it's just to keep the chief from having a heart attack. You go around and tell him the building's not going to blow up, so we can all go home. So I'm on the back of the rig. We're bouncing along. We're heading north. I think we're going to the Upper East Side. And I got the explosive meter in the back, the old one with the little hand pump thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm putting batteries in it. And I'm geared up. I always got completely geared up from the time I was in 74 engine until now. I'm dressed and ready to go when we go out the door. And all of a sudden, I hear on the radio, Rescue One, you're redirected to 72nd Street and Broadway. Is a building fire. So we're like 3 blocks away.
Nice.
We turn the corner, 25 trucks right in the middle of the street, and Bruce is throwing the aerial ladder up across to the building on the south side of the street, tall building. And about the 6th floor, you could see heavy smoke coming out the windows. Out of about 3 windows in the middle of the building. 35 truck is close to the curb. They're first due on that side of the street. 25 is first due. That's the boundary on the other side of the street. But Bruce has got the position. It's early in the morning. I think it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Light crowd. There's people around. No traffic. It's just the 2 first due units and 25 truck. Everybody else is coming. That's all that's at the scene. And us, because we were around the corner. So I jump off. I have a rope and some tools. I'm going to go. I'm looking. Figured he's got the aerial up. Maybe I could get to the floor above or go onto the adjoining roof and sneak through. I don't want to get stuck on the stairs and not be able to get up. And there's 2 guys on the end of 25's ladder, and they're venting the off window, probably the same apartment from the looks of it. So I'm thinking, maybe I could even get in there, whatever. And all of a sudden, you could see the middle, the smoke is changing to fire in these 3 windows. And I'm talking to Bruce, and he's trying his best to, be a chauffeur on the turntable, do the right thing. And I see a helmet, and I'm like, whoa, what's that helmet doing by those windows? Because I'm looking, this whole thing's turning to fire. There's a big giant room, because you could see the fire rolling all around. So this is one big room with 3 windows on it. So it's probably the living room or something like that. Like, holy mackerel. And I see the helmet pop up, and I see it's Tommy Balla from 35 truck. And it's like, holy shit, this guy's in big trouble. And he goes back down. So I start yelling. I'm yelling at Bruce, there's a guy right there. And we yell, stay there, because we think he's trying to go back now. And from my position, it is a sea of fire coming at him. So the guys on the tip of the ladder can see in the window. They can see him. He can see them. But they're 60 feet above the ground. There's the sidewalk. There's a picket fence below that.
Shit.
And these guys, there's 2 guys on pretty close to a fully extended 100-foot aerial ladder with 2 men on the end. So that ladder doesn't want to move because of the weight on there. So Bruce is trying to lift it to bring them over. But they're trying to reach out and grab him. So
Paul, I'm getting nervous already, Paul. I'm getting nervous.
Well, so next thing you know, Tommy's at the window. and he's climbing out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are frantic to try to reach him, but they are just a couple of feet in between that they're not reaching him. So I run to the back of 25 truck. I drop all my stuff. I pull out a straight ladder and I start to go up the ladder. I figure we could bridge it across. Wow. I think Bruce told me to grab the straight ladder. So in the interim, Patty Highland from Rescue 1 jumps off. He's still in his work duty uniform and work shoes. He runs up the ladder. Bruce is still trying to move the ladder. Somehow, the ladder moves and the rungs shift. And Patty's foot,
I was just going to say,
in between, and the rung shifts, and Patty's foot breaks in half.
Oh my God!
So now we got two problems, but number one problem is still Tommy Balla, who's facing getting burned to death or taking a 60-foot jump, and I go running up with this ladder, hand it to Bruce. They start bridging it across. Ballar's at least able to climb out, and he's hanging across the top of the ladder, and there is fire roaring over his head now. And I look out of the corner of my eye, and Tommy Baker, who had been driving our truck, was a firefighter from 44 truck in the south, Bronx. Up in the Bronx, so he knows all about tower ladders. He's in there putting 35 trucks ladder into position or just operating it.
Just get it up there, yeah.
Yeah. So he takes one jack and crushes a Cadillac.
Love it.
A legally parked Cadillac, crushes it.
Allegedly, Paul.
Yeah. So he puts it up. Now he's going up, and if you remember from chauffeur school, they tell you not to come into the building and go up because you might coax the people to jump. You should go up and then come into them, so you're more at the same level. Right. Tommy wants to come in case he falls, that he can catch him. Right. So Tommy comes. He's starting to come up. I get all the way up, and
so now there's 3 guys at the top of the ladder.
5.
Well, the other guys,
Two guys are at the very tip. Patty Highland's next with a broken foot. Me and Bruce coming up with the portable ladder. Bruce steps over Patty Highland.
And the guy who's coming out the window.
And the
who's
guy
hanging on the ladder.
Patty Highland's unconscious on the ladder. And Patty Highland, by the way, was an Ironman triathlete. Mm-hmm. He went to Hawaii and took part in that. So he's about 6'1", 6'2", super
He went
ripped.
unconscious?
Oh, his foot was badly broken. So
no shit.
It kind of turned him off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I hand the ladder to Bruce. They send it over. Baker's coming up. Patty comes to again, and he goes, "You got to get me down." So I'm looking. Bruce has got one arm around the portable ladder, one arm around the beam of the aerial ladder. Guys are now wiggling across the gap trying to get to Balla. And so, all right, I take Patty Highland's legs, throw them over my shoulders, reach behind him, and I lock my hands. And I got my arms on the aerial ladder, and I just start.
And that's pretty straight up, man. 6'4", right? That's pretty straight up.
Well, it wasn't a problem in the beginning because gravity was helping, and then all of
it, Tyler.
And then but at the bottom of the ladder, when you start getting down, the aerial starts getting away from itself, so all the parts could come down into it. And by the time I get to the bottom, I'm having trouble holding this guy, but. We get him down, and
that's incredible, man.
A buff from 25 comes with a bucket, a Stokes basket. We put the injured firefighter in that. Tommy reaches across into the fire, pulls out Balla, puts him in the bucket, takes him down. The guys from 25 are coming down. Tommy brings down Balla. There's no chief yet.
No engine? Was the engine up there?
No, the engine was on the fire floor, but there's still, they got to put the standpipe together. This will happen the lady was in the hallway screaming, "My babies." The babies were birds, and she was freebasing. That's the reason the apartment went on fire. So she was a little.
I love the 80s, man. I love the 80s.
Oh yeah, but anyway, now I got this guy in the basket, and I'm trying to get him off the side of 25 up high, trying to get him down. And because he's unconscious again, and I look over and it got Tommy Baker and Tommy Balla standing next to me with his coat's still on fire, and he's helping me lift. He's helping me lift up.
We don't make them like that anymore, Paulie.
So I look at Tommy, and he goes, well, "There's no ambulance. There's nobody there." This all happened. It was the fastest thing I ever saw in slow motion. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I like that line.
So
I like that line.
We stick him in the back of the rescue truck, and me and Tommy go and we bring to Bellevue. And Bala ended up in the burn center. Patty Highland had to get surgery. Both of them never came back to full duty. And then when we came back, everybody's like, "What happened? What?" Like the chiefs are going, "What? What?" You know, it was amazing.
That's
amazing. So that fire I kind of remember.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Did you get something for that too, or did the guys get anything for that, or no?
Oh yeah, those Tommy got a medal. The two guys on the limb.
Oh my God! Yeah,
got medals. Yeah, Bala got burned up.
Now, how bad was he burned? But he was put out of the job, you said?
Well, he got a really cool. He was a great guy, a wonderful firefighter, really good firefighter. And then he was one of the first guys doing that hospital liaison thing. Mm-hmm. When you got banged up, that they would call somebody from the fire department. And they go to the hospital.
Yeah, they would drive you around, pick you up.
Before that, you were on your own. You got in an ambulance, and maybe if the company was close enough, they'd come and get. Nobody cared. You went in the hospital. I was like,
nobody cares.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And then they started this thing, which was great. And he had that job for years. And we'd see him bringing guys in or checking on guys. And Tommy was there, and he worked for years doing that. Perfect guy, low key. That's why he didn't jump, because he was such a solid low key guy that I'm going to get out of this. I'm not going to panic.
Yeah,
amazing, absolutely amazing.
You ever get into a situation where you had to bail out, Paul?
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
Yeah.
Not as calm as him.
Dude, I got to tell you, bro, I was at a job, with Smithwick. Me, Smithwick, and Dunnick, we go up to the second floor on a portable. We go in there. It's the only time I ever saw everything in the room just start lighting up. The whole room started lighting up. And Dunnick ran into a room, shut the door. Smithwick went down the stairs, and I actually just jumped out the window. Thank God there was a porch roof there, but I was going, man. I had no time, and I wasn't as calm as that guy, and I just dove head first. And thank God I chose the right window. I landed on the porch roof. But when that happens, it's just
well, there's a reason why people jump out of 6th floor windows is because they have no choice. People are jumping out of the trade center, for God's sake.
Exactly.
They have no fucking choice. You know what I mean?
Well, people were saying that, when it was happening. How could they jump out of this? You never been to a fire, have you?
Yeah, you've never been to a fire because that's your best option. People just make the sign of the cross.
That's
and
it.
You know what? They make
what
peace.
Happens.
That's it. They make peace, and that's it.
What do you got there, Pete? You got something?
Well, it's interesting. I don't want to be too esoteric, right? But I've been noticing a lot of things about Paul here. I know he's a living legend.
Don't use those big words. Oh, finally. Man,
hey.
I'm almost done with my bottle.
Big drinker.
Look, for lack of a better term, you can categorize firefighters in the warrior class. You guys are battling fires, and saving lives. But I notice about you, Paul, that you're writing books. You're a writer, which is incredibly creative. A cartoonist. You draw. You have a guitar back there. What do you find in the creativity? And do you recommend that other firefighters find that, because, like if you look back at the history of feudal Japan and all that stuff, all the old warriors in that era, the samurai, would also have calligraphy and all these arts under their belt as well, right? So, do you think it's an important trait for firefighters to have and escape something else other than firefighting constantly?
Well, I think many people in the fire service, men and women, are drawn to other things, sometimes art. I know Paul Combs is a great artist.
That's good stuff too.
And, tremendous outlet. I met so many firefighters. I was involved in an art show back in, I guess, about 1982 at the World Trade Center. And it was all firefighters. And we put our artwork up in the lobby of the World Trade Center. And it was pretty cool. But art isn't for everyone. I've met some wonderful people that can't carry a note and could care less about history and, don't care to draw a circle, but they're really good at what they do. I think if you have some other kind of interest, whether it's fishing or just your family or whatever, it's important to have downtime too. It was a little tough for me and I chose it, but to come from one firehouse to another, I know I drove my family crazy because I'd go off to work 24 hours and come home and go to a fire in Freeport. And who is this guy? I had a handsome picture of me so they could refer to it, but that's,
darker mustache though. Darker mustache back then.
Yeah. But no, I think you're right. But that's an individual thing. I know many friends that I've given books to, and I know they never read them. But that doesn't make them a bad person. I'm just not going to give them any more books.
I guess my general question was, what do you find in the arts that both brings you closer to the fire and takes you away from the fire?
Well, I think just going back to the thing I mentioned earlier about the scientific nature of it. The history of the military, the history of humanity. I don't know if it was Kurt Vonnegut or somebody had a great line. A fire engine is the most wonderful sign of humanity that's ever been created. The fact that everybody would pitch together to help out in a fire. And then as it got more specialized, people became specialized in that. Firefighting, and sometimes I do lectures and you could see some of the guys glaze over. And I always tell them in the beginning, there's not going to be a test. Don't worry about it. You don't have to remember the dates. But organized firefighting, it goes back to ancient Rome and before that to Sibius in Egypt and all this stuff when they first made the first pumps. It's before Christ that they started fighting fires, organized firefighting. And I'm pretty sure there were guys that were their go-to guys in those days that knew a little bit more and had creative ideas on how to organize this better, how to rally the troops and get people to do things. James Braidwood first he started off in Scotland and then he went to London. The man was a genius. He wrote a book on firefighting back in the 1820s or 30s. I'm not exactly sure, but around that time in Europe, he started out in Scotland and then he went to London. And there's a line in there that strikes me that the guy with the nozzle, they called it something different, whatever the nickname was, but should get as close to the fire as he can, even if he has to crawl. This is no masks with, rudimentary equipment. And
do it.
He is telling the exact same thing they told me in 1976.
Do it. Get in there.
And it made perfect
sense. Get to the seat of the fire, Hashagen.
That's it. Get in there. Get in there, you cowards.
Hey, Pete, I want you to.
Here's a good one. Here's a good one. I know you're going to ask me about that picture at R1.
Yes, I want to talk about the wall. I mean, you were talking about art, so I know that obviously I touched on the fact that Paul drew a lot for us in the beginning with all the caricatures and all that.
Well, here's a question about that painting. It says, Paul, can you talk about the painting you did on the wall on Rescue and the members you added on there?
So we have pictures of that too. So
yeah, stand by, coming right up. Yeah, thanks for answering that, by the way, Paul. I appreciate that.
Old Man River, Hank Mollet is on there as Hazel.
Oh,
right?
He is.
Got the Windex. Does he have the Windex?
He does.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, I'll take that in a little more, bro.
It was a dark and stormy night.
There I was.
Yeah.
There I was.
It all started, I had this idea, especially after I was in Rescue 1 for a while, that we're going to these monumental fires, and the traffic in Manhattan just kept going. The people on the streets, everybody, they'd stop for a minute and they look and this is in the way. We have stuff to do. They always say, oh, people in New York City, they're not friendly. Sure, they're friendly. They're just very busy. They're going from one place to another and, oh, there's a fire in my way or this tourist or whatever. So I started doing a couple of little sketches and they came up with a small poster that relatively looks like that. and I hung it on the refrigerator in the firehouse and went off on a 72, my 3 days off. And I came back and people had written different names next to the characters. And there really wasn't any character in the original drawing that was specifically somebody.
Right.
One guy kind of looked suspiciously like Joe Angelini, but everybody else was just a generic thing. And the guys kept saying to me, "Oh, you should do that. And you should make it this one and make it that one and do it on the wall." And I kept saying, "What wall? What are you talking about?" Because we had what used to be the coat room. They turned into a sitting room to put a TV on it. TV on there. So I said, "Well, if you give me something to paint, I'll paint on it." So I go on vacation and I come back, and sadly we had some really good carpenters, and they took one wall and they covered it with sheetrock. And I came in, it looked like Michelangelo's wall, just ready. Yeah, do it on that. So
here's your Sistine Chapel. Go.
Yeah. Thank God I didn't have to lay on my back to do it. But so I made a deal. They had already decided they didn't want me to cook anyway. And we weren't big on cooking that much anyway in Rescue One, but especially at night. But I said, all right, I'll do this, but I'll take care of the rig. But if you want me to do this, I have to do it. So they said, "Yeah, we got all the rest, old man. Don't worry about it." So I started doing that. So I did the one whole wall pretty much as you see it. And it became a hit. It was funny. And it was everybody that was in the firehouse at that time. And then a couple of years go by. I guess that wall there took about 100 hours, roughly.
Wow.
To do. So I do, it took months and months and months. So I'd work on it for an hour or two. I'd stay up late and work for 2 or 3 hours into the middle of the night on it. But it's just my style of cartooning. I mean, it's not,
Yes.
It is what it is. And then after a while, new guys came and they wanted to be on the wall. So I told them the same thing. Well, you give me some way to do it and I'll do it. So this is the other side of the wall. And so now I had to figure out, the hardest thing is once I had the two pieces together, how am I going to get this corner to work? Because I had left, I like doing these little stupid spatial relations things that I used to get a kick out of in the old Mad magazines. Where
I used to like Mad magazines too.
Yeah, like on the top floor of this building over here, I had a guy playing pool where a pool table really couldn't fit in the room. Nobody else knows that except for me. But like stupid little stuff. So now I'm looking this corner over here that's a movie theater with a marquee. And now I'm looking, now I have to turn the corner on this marquee on the movie theater. So it took me probably a whole day of just sitting there and doing pencil lines to try to get the perspective right so that no matter where I stood,
it looked pretty good.
It looked right.
Is that Croth going in the hole?
Yeah, it's Kevin Croth. Yeah.
How did I guess that? It looks just like him.
Yeah.
Hey, who's the guy the size of the fire hydrant, Paul?
Frankie Fee.
Where is Fee? Let me see. Oh, that's Fee. Oh my God, that's Francis. Oh my God,
the little guy from the engine.
That's freaking great. I'm gonna text him that.
There's right behind him with the violin.
That's Taraboki. Is that Taraboki?
No, that's La Femina.
Oh my God, that's
La Femina with a machine gun in the case, dressed up like a Tarabokia behind him.
That's what I mean. Yeah, Taraboki straight back.
Tarabokia with the cigar. John Weissite, who's cleaning up the office.
Oh my God, that's classic.
Yeah. I got Steve over there. Steve came to us right after 9/11, and he was a rodeo cowboy for a while, so I got him twirling a rope. Yeah,
that's freaking great.
Let me come back at it there. Sorry,
so
boys.
sadly, the wall stopped when I left because I couldn't go back and do these guys because I don't know them.
Right.
Yeah.
And
is that Morris coming through the door?
Oh, through the lock. Sure.
Oh my God, how do you freaking do that, man?
And then Tony up on the top playing the drums.
Dude, who's the kid in the middle there with the tube? Is that the kid?
Where is Tedeschi playing the drums up there?
Tedeschi's playing the drums above the Disney.
That's sign. Great. Yeah. With the long hat. Is that the kid with the rubber tube? Is that the guy?
Oh, Dave Weiss.
That's his Weiss, right?
Dave
He
Weiss,
made the grab, and
Dave
he
Weiss
went to
made a
rescue
grab
one.
in the East River.
I remember
and
that.
The
That was the
funniest
best one.
The funniest story I ever heard. He told it to me. I almost wet my. He told me the story while I was painting this wall
Funny
about
guy,
how
man.
he made the
Funny
rescue.
guy.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, he's one of the funniest people I ever met.
He's a funny
I worked
guy.
with him in Freeport and in New York City.
So there's the equation right there. Freeport plus a grab equals rescue one.
Well,
Yeah,
it's funny.
he went right there.
We had Frankie Fee,
Mhm.
and
Funny guy.
Frankie Fee, Hank, me, Bruce, all from Truck Company. Dave Weiss was from Engine Company. So there was the Freeport. It used to be me, Hank, and Bruce with a Freeport connection. And then Frankie came, and then Dave Weiss came. So there was, Freeport had its share of guys that made a difference in rescue.
How long was he there for before 9/11? How long was he there for?
Not that long, because I was in the classes with him, bro. So maybe he got there in 98 or 99.
I think he got there in 98. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember that. I remember going to the classes with him. That's how I remember him. I knew the story where he made the grab.
After he makes the grab, he's in the hospital because he was in the river. They make sure that you didn't get sick from it. And
Where you want to go?
well, the mayor comes and the fire commissioner comes and says, if there's ever anything I can ever do for you, and his wife jumped in, he must have got to rescue one. The mayor takes the fire commissioner in.
That
Wow.
don't hurt, right?
But
couple of guys-
he earned his spurs because Dave was an iron worker.
Yeah, he was a tough guy, right?
And he came in and total wackadoo. I mean, the guy was great at a
Yeah, he
fire.
was whacked out.
In the
He was.
firehouse, but he was out of his mind, which is why I love him so much. And we went to a really good building collapse. It was on the Upper East Side. Was it the whole building? It was the whole outside skin of this building fell down and everything. Right before Christmas, shut down Fifth Avenue. Oh, it was on television every night and all this stuff. There was a big scandal going on. And we go to the scene, and we're hanging out, and John Norman is talking to Ray Downey, and Dave goes over and he's talking to the iron workers, and they're all in the same union. He's giving them the whole backstory, what's going on, because
Give him the spiel.
people are telling one story, people are telling another. Weiss found out the truth, comes in. Next thing we know, we're in this meeting, in we go, and they gave all the information to the right people. I said, well, isn't it true about this? Isn't it true about that? And the next thing you know, they fixed the whole thing. It was this whole big giant argument between companies and unions. And once they found out everything, the finger pointing stopped. They fixed the problem, and everybody had Christmas. Yeah, good old Dave. God bless him.
Yeah, he was. I remember him like going on details there. He was one guy that stuck out to me because he was a funny guy. But I think he probably told that story to everybody, right? How he made the grab. I mean,
Oh man, yeah.
he was definitely. Oh, by the way, did I tell you I made a grab? You know,
Breaking balls about that, too. Hey, my name is Dave. I made a grab. I jumped
Very subtle.
I had cards made. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Everybody's asking. Well, a few people did for. Is it Joe Angelini?
Yeah.
Joe Angelini.
Yeah, people are asking for Angelini stories. They want to know if Paul had ever worked with him, and does he have any stories?
Of course.
I worked with Joe my whole 20 years. I worked with Joe.
Smoking cigarettes, right?
Yeah, he chain smoked.
I remember him smoking
Joe
all
was
the time.
one of the best firefighters. Super sweetheart. I think he went to Science High School or something like that. One of those special high schools they have in the city where it's competitive and it's really hard to get into. Especially back in the era. He was a little bit older than me, so I think it was very competitive back then. But I think he also grew up in the era where it wasn't cool to be smart. So he used to make believe he didn't know things. And he would say, the bit about the whatchamacallit and this
Italian.
thing. And then meanwhile,
Italian thing.
the guy come in and say, man, my kid's going to state schools and I got to figure it out. Come here. This is what you do. Go see this guy, see that guy. If you remember back on Saturday Night Live, they used to have a skit. Phil Hartman used to do Ronald Reagan, and he'd make believe that he was going crazy, to the cameras, and then he'd get behind the scenes, and he was the smartest man in the world. That was Joey. but he would do some crazy stuff at fires. I mean, holy mackerel! When I first got there, they say, "You watch Joey." I said, "I just got here. I'm going to watch Joey." No, he's old enough to be my father. At least it seems like that.
How old was he when he passed away?
Well, we lost him on 9/11.
Yeah. How old was he?
He got picked up. Well, he had just, I think he had just started his 40th year on the job.
That's incredible, man. I mean, I remember him.
I think he was
the whole time.
He was the oldest firefighter, I believe, on the job at the time. He got picked up on a medical. We went for scuba diving, and they sent us for the first pulmonary function tests. And he'd step out in the hallway and smoke
a cigarette before he had to blow in the thing. And blow it out.
But he could do everything. He could scuba dive. He could do absolutely everything. I mean, and he made a grab. We used to kid that Joey was so quiet that if he talked on the radio, the fire stopped because he never talked on the radio. As a matter of fact, it would be, rescue the roof. Is the roof open? And he'd grab his radio and go. Like, that was his transmission. He makes a grab one night. They got a tenement going over by the Midtown Tunnel on the east side there. He goes to the adjoining building, up the fire escape, hops across a burning tree, gets into the fire escape of the fire building, goes in, goes up. The carpets are on fire on the stairs, goes up and finds a lady. And he gets on the radio and says, "I got a babe." His initial radio report is, "I got a babe." He's got an unconscious woman. So,
that should be the new word of the day. My God.
Now, I got a babe. He's waiting because he knows we've had drills about this. And like
Take your time.
He was a really smart man. So I'm not demeaning him because he's way smarter than me. But he also had this little thing where sometimes he'd wait and he'd go, so the captain said, "What code?" 1045, code 1, code 2, 3. And he goes, "The middle one." But everybody who knew him knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah, right.
And he brought her down. He got a medal for that. It was unbelievable. We went back and looked at that fire. I could not believe he got up those stairs. Unbelievable.
And he looked like a little old man.
Yeah,
right?
he did look like a little old Italian guy. He did.
Little old guy with white hair, chain smoking.
Yeah.
Pete from Rescue 3. I don't know if it was Joey's 25th anniversary. He had so many because he just kept staying. Pete Ortel was another great artist, and up in Rescue 3, and he made a figurine of Joey, whittled it out of wood, carved it out of wood. It looked just like him, had a little cigarette and everything. It was filled with dirt. It was great. Absolutely great.
That's amazing.
What a wonderful man.
When I work, we were kids. I mean, we had like 5 or 6 years when we first started, when we went to the squads and we first started getting details out to the rescues. And I remember him. I remember you. I remember Al, Big Al Benjamin, right? And then, Kevin, was it O'Keefe?
O'Rourke.
O'Rourke.
No, O'Rourke was in 2. I'm sorry.
No, he's in 2.
O'Rourke was in 2.
Was it O'Keefe? Not O'Keefe.
Patty O'Keefe. Yeah,
Patty O'Keefe. Yeah,
was with us until 9/11. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a senior guy there, right?
Another brilliant guy. Yeah. We're very lucky. Another great guy.
So, 21 Truck Tillerman is saying, "Hey, Pete, tell Lou that squad and rescue can go 10-8. I don't know what that means.
We're available, man. Suck it. Put the squad to work.
21 Truck.
Put the squad to work.
Tell him we're going 10-8 from his old lady's box."
Oh,
that
wasn't me.
That wasn't me.
Hotch, I think the guys think that we're like awestruck talking to you because usually we beat the heck out of our guests.
I appreciate it. I am.
We really love you. I mean, I'm loving the stories myself. I really do.
Well, the cool thing was, to me, I was just so lucky to get there. There was so many wonderful guys and amazing things. And looking back on one of the books I'm working on, my wife has me, jotting things down about my career. It's good telling you guys some stories and stuff, but to put it all down, and after doing that Rescue 1 book, it's hard to believe that we did that many cool things, during those years. It was just, and even one of the things I do is I go on some of these lecture tours. I usually try to get to bring history into it, because I think it really is important that you understand the history of where it all came from. It doesn't make a difference in your job performance, but it makes a difference, back to what Pete was saying earlier about your attitude, about your overall thing, because we're really all just links in a chain, and that chain goes back a long way. And some people hold on tighter than others, and sometimes that link stays a long time, and some people couldn't be bothered. But I think you really sell yourself short, and you sell the fire service short if you don't put more into it than you take out of it.
Oh, there's no, I mean, even for myself, now that I've only been out a couple of months, but, doing this, I've said this before, that it helps me, you know what I mean? Because it would be a huge void, because I gave, every ounce that I had. I mean, I really love the job. I love the tradition of the job, but in the end, like you said, the big red door goes up, the big red door goes down. When I'm gone,
right,
I'm just carrying on the tradition of the guys who were there before me, and hopefully the guys who are there now are, it's just a stepping stone over time. And, to uphold that pride and the tradition and all that stuff over time is, that's what's kept us going for 100 plus years, right? I mean, that's really what it is.
Paul, do you get back there at all? Do you get back to go to Rescue 1 at all, or you haven't been there in a while?
I really don't get back there probably as often as I'd like. Company party, 9/11. It is a bit of a what used to be easy to do every couple of days is now, it seems like a mental chore to get all the way in there. But one of the good things is, and I had it before I started in the city, was truck company in Freeport until this the pandemic thing started. I was there. I don't fight fires actively anymore. Between my hands and other things that have happened, I didn't want to play three quarters. I don't want to play flag. I want to play full tackle, and that's it. And but I try to go on Sundays, and I try to go to the meetings and try to be that link in the chain, and do this very thing: sit and talk with young firefighters and tell stories and give drills and all that. And I think that really made my transition to retirement easy, because I had a firehouse kitchen table to go sit at, and fire stories to tell. And I could, if the whistle blew, I could go there and hang around, take pictures, change a Scott, whatever, and watch the guys do their job. And it's good.
No, that's good stuff. No doubt. Have you talked to Kevin since he retired?
Yeah. Yep. I've been in contact with Kevin. It's funny. You don't realize it when you go into the job. You think you're invincible. You're going to be there forever, and then when the time comes, you just look around like, wow, that was fast. Where does the time go?
Are you kidding me? Like, this is it? So I saw. I posted his last run.
Yeah.
Cigar. It was just a perfect. When I saw it, I was just like blown away, because he's just like that easygoing guy too. And I know he's been there a lot of years. And then just to see him, smoking the cigar as if he's sitting in his backyard, and then they pan out to the street, and it's like total mayhem, right? There's cars like up on the street. It looks like there's cars everywhere. And then they pan back to him, and he's just like he's ordering he's ordering a pizza.
That's one of the things about driving a fire truck. When I would tell young chauffeurs as they came in that you can't get angry with the traffic, because these people didn't drive all the way in here to get in front of you. It just turned out that way.
Right.
And if you look, it's a matter of spatial relations. There's nowhere for them to go, and you have to do the best you can. And I knew Kevin when he was a young firefighter in Ladder 4.
Yeah, he's a 4 truck, right?
Yeah, and when he came over, he's a really great addition to the company, and a great chauffeur. I think there's a certain attitude that you need as a chauffeur. You're a little bit like a sergeant, a senior man and the little buffer between the front seat and the back seat. And sometimes guys look to you at fires or emergencies. What do we do next? Or what do you think? He always had that good, calm, yeah, we can get this done, kind of thing. A rational thinker and good man with the tools. That's important. That the whole thing about the job is we just pull up to some crazy stuff and, there's 20 things going on. It's like, all right, well, you can't solve all 20 at once. Let's pick one we can fix. That'll take us to the rest and, work your way in from there. But then there's other guys that's just like, what?
I'm going to try and get him. I'm going to try and get him on here. I haven't called him. I've texted him a few times. Yeah, I know. He's tough. I know he's tough.
One more quick question, you guys, from the the chat. So, because we're getting a little long in the tooth and we don't want to kill you, Paul. The Brotherhood Leatherworks asks, hey, Pete, can you ask Paul what his most memorable or meaningful citation was?
Good question.
Well, I guess just the idea of, I don't think there was one specific one, just because I was lucky enough to go to City Hall a couple of times. And
did you ever win the Bennett? You never won.
Oh, no. I was in the running one year, but no, the guy who got the Bennett totally deserved. He waded through a small lake of gasoline to pull a guy out of a burning truck.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you were good with that?
Yeah.
It wasn't keeping you up at night.
Yeah.
I was glad I was off that day.
Yeah, no doubt. No, making me nervous thinking about that.
I was Captain Bill, I think, up in 34 truck. I had driven him when he was covering. No, just the idea of getting any accolade, is really wonderful. I guess the year of the helicopter, I was also involved in another rescue of getting some young men out of a building that was under demolition that was seriously on fire. And the fact that I ended up with two of the older medals, and being the historian, the fact that I have these medals and I look back and see all the amazing things that all those other people before me had done to get the same award.
Yeah, that's great, man.
That's the longevity of it. The Bennett's the oldest, and then the Bonner, and then the whole history of them all. But that it's just the amazing thing. The link. I have my grandfather's badge, the same badge number, and the fact that I got to wear that badge and get those medals. That was my link to 1918. So
yeah, man.
Wow.
To me, it kind of put it all together. They all mean. The only ones I never liked, I didn't get any of them, but I always thought, if you're not going to give me something and you're going to give me an honorable mention, then it'll just be
honorable. Good. You can wipe your ass with that.
Yeah. I got two of those.
Yeah, I always like those. Yeah, honorable mention. You could take the paper and wipe your ass with it.
Yeah, don't mention it. Yeah.
An honorable do not mention.
By the way, you're not getting an award. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we're just going to know. That's freaking great, man.
Well,
I love it.
Segue into that, Paul. What is the new book you're working on? It's on the history of the medals, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I have a major project that I'm doing. I finished the first part of it. I'm going to publish it in coordination with the Honor Legion, so the sale of the book will help fund the work that the Honor Legion does in New York City. They do some fine work. And it's the history of all the medals and everyone that was awarded.
That's pretty cool.
So it'll be every firefighter and the rescue they made to get that award. And
that's great.
So it gives the details of the rescue that they made, why they got that medal. Wow, that's
from 1869 till next year or whenever I finish it. I decided to break it into 2 volumes just because it's an ongoing
1,000 pages.
So.
Yeah.
And then this whole virus thing put a stop. I was going to go to headquarters. I had gotten permission from the fire commissioner to ransack various parts of headquarters to look for additional information. I think I have enough right now,
Mhm.
But I'm looking for extra ornaments for the tree, for extra thing.
Well, what the other books you still have on? You're still selling online, correct?
Yeah,
Well, he's
right
actually
now-
selling them on GettinSaltyApparel.com. If you want to see any of Paul's books, you can go to GettinSaltyApparel.com.
we do that too. Right. No, but right now I stopped shipping just because I felt guilty going to the post office. And God bless. I love the ladies and men that work at my neighborhood post office, and I really felt guilty going in there, handing them these books and they're high plastic.
Yeah.
So I figured I'm just taking a break. I have another book coming out besides the 2 other ones I'm working on that the editor's looking at now, and I've taken 5 different fires that I've written about before, the Windsor Hotel fire, the Equitable fire, and I've fictionalized them, and I put kids that were actually at these fires and a couple other fires, and kind of told it from their perspective. So it's a book for adults, but it's written so kids could read it because there's children heroes, but scaling ladder rescues and all. It's
Scaling ladders. That's crazy.
Yeah, scary ladders, but it's technically correct, and it's hopefully good. And I think
your shop is on where? It's on Etsy, Paul.
Yeah, I'm on Etsy. Just myname.com will take you there.
You have a couple of kids' books too, don't you?
Yeah, well, I have the one little kids' book that's out, and then I have a second one that I probably will be sending off to the editor in a month or so.
Good.
So you're busy. That's good.
Yeah.
Keep busy. So we're going to see also the Tillerman shirt that Paul gave us. As soon as the rest of the world opens up, it's just sitting there waiting to be printed.
And Paul, we're probably going to do at some point, I would say probably by the summer, a spotlight on. I don't know if you've seen any of our spotlight on.
Yeah, they're cool.
We're going to do one on Rescue One. So obviously you're going to be our go-to guy. So, you have to talk to us again at least one more time. Yeah, at least one more time. You're going to have to talk to us.
You have to talk to us one more time at least.
God.
Good Lord.
All right. Okay.
All right.
All right, gentlemen. So anywhere else you want to plug, Paul, before we move on?
What, that we love him to death? Is that
No, I'm saying, what, does he have a website or any social that he wants to put out there?
You got paulhashagen.com if you're interested in books, and on Facebook I try to put up pictures and write little stories and put coloring pages up for kids now if they're stuck at home. I'd really just like to, I think the EMS people in the city, myself included, the fire department kind of didn't pay much attention to them in the past.
I agree.
And
I agree.
The work they're doing and the people in the hospitals are doing is absolutely incredible. My hat's off to them.
Give him one of these. Let's give him one of these.
Yeah, New York, it's been crazy, man.
You got it. I can't wait till things are back to normal. Whatever
Hopefully.
that is.
Yeah.
Brother, whenever that is.
Soon, by Easter, apparently.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I hope so.
We'll see.
So we finally got him on. I'm so glad we got him on. As you could tell, me and Louie had nothing to say. We weren't doing as usual.
I didn't break his balls. I can't even
usual.
how you gonna break the guy's balls. I mean, I'm interested in what he has to say.
You got to respect the living legend.
Oh!
One more time.
Hey, ming, ming, ming. All right, guys. Well, you guys, for the listening audience, you know that if you found us on Spreaker or on iTunes or on iHeartRadio or anywhere where you find podcasts like ours, you can also find us on youtube.com/Gettin Salty Experience, on Instagram @Salty Dog Inc. And of course, if you want a cool guy t-shirt like that muscle man over there is wearing, the Incredible Hulk Kevin, you're going to have to. Well, listen, I got to give him credit where credit's due. Look at this guy. All right.
Not bad for 52.
I lost about 5 pounds this week with this freaking stone. Anyway, you go to www.gettinsaltyapparel.com for all your fireman t-shirts, trinkets, hats, all the wonderful stuff they sell there. Thank you guys for joining us.
All kidding aside, we're happy to have producer Pete back. He went through a little tough stint there with his little kidney stones. Very painful. We're happy he's back, and onward and upward. We're going to have the living legend on again.
Yep.
And
I just want to say one thing.
He's got plenty of stories, man. Plenty of stories.
and let me tell you, ball busting, whatever, all that stuff. Kevin and Lou, you guys are two of the best humans I know. Called me every freaking morning and every night to see how I was doing, man. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys as friends. You guys are awesome. So,
family now. That's it,
thank
kid.
you.
You're in.
Family.
Thank you,
You're
brother.
in.
Thank you, brothers.
No getting out.
All right.
No getting out. That's it.
Never. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us
Paulie,
tonight.
thank you for everything, man. We love you.
Be
Oh,
well.
yeah. Hey,
Stay
hold on.
healthy,
We got to hit him with the finger. Like, subscribe, share.
Subscribe.
If you guys don't like, subscribe, share, this show won't go anywhere. And we want to take it on the road. We want to have live shows for.
Oh, I like the
audiences of
challenge
firefighters.
coins, Paulie. I
I
like
have
them.
that one in my curio cabinet.
I
That's
got to
the-
get one of those, Paul.
You don't have
Hey.
one? Oh, you're on the outside looking in, aren't you?
Oh, maybe I didn't know you were doing.
Ah.
Paul, I really like everything you said.
I have a Hashagen challenge coin in my
Yeah.
curio cabinet. How do you like that? Listen,
All right,
you're not
guys.
tight-
Melting.
You're not tight with the living legend. I can't help it, bro. You know what I mean? Oh, he's almost.
All right,
Oh,
gentlemen.
the old
Thanks
lady's
for watching.
tonight, ain't she, Paul?
Your old lady.
Paul, thanks
Yeah.
for coming on, bro. We love you, kid.
Hi, my brothers.
All right, Paulie. Be good, brother.
See
See
you.
you at
Good
the
night.
big one.